Hej kära vänner. I följande video så visar det sig hur patetisk israelisk propaganda är. Den här videon har spritts över hela världen. Till och med BBC som har varit så otroligt pro-israeliska har visat den här videon. Så nu vet vi, eller borde alla förstå, att det Israel kommer med är propaganda, det vill säga lögn. Det börjar från dag ett med dessa 40 bebisar som fått sina huvuden avhuggna. För helskotta liksom. Tänk efter lite nu. Nu kommer vi till den viktiga frågan. Kommer våra politiker att erkänna hur pass fel de hade? Har våra politiker en ryggrad eller inte? Har underbart.
Under international humanitarian law, attacking a hospital is a war crime, unless you can prove that it is being used by your enemy as a tool of war, which is what the Israeli military has been claiming, and not just since October 7th, that Al-Shifa Hospital serves as a command center for Hamas, that patients there are being used as human shields. That has been Israel's justification for cutting off power and water to the hospitals, cutting short Palestinian lives, basically. However, when you examine the evidence that the Israeli military finally provided this past week, it comes up short. Some of it has bordered on the absurd. As a propaganda effort, it was an embarrassment. Also compromised in this operation are the news outlets, far too many of them, that have run with the Israeli version of this story for far too long. They, too, have some explaining to do. The Israeli propaganda machine has a reputation for being effective, at times sophisticated. Not anymore. After telling the world that a hospital, Al-Shifa, was Hamas's command center in Gaza, Israeli forces were finally on the inside, in a position to show us the evidence. And this was the best they could come up with. A few dozen guns.
These weapons have absolutely no business being inside a hospital.
What looks like some new body armor, apparently unused, with some branding conveniently splashed across it.
But it's Hamas, the military wing.
A laptop.
Already provides a lot of incriminating evidence.
And to show their humanitarian side, Israeli soldiers carted in incubators for babies through a hospital where they cannot work because Israel has cut off the electricity. Propaganda does not get much clumsier than this. It left Israel's critics unconvinced and had to leave its supporters mortified.
I can't imagine that anyone, let alone, an Israeli sitting at home who was anticipating this big reveal during the Al-Shifa hospital raid, would be satisfied with what was found by the Israeli military. The expectation surrounding Shifa Hospital, presumably, and other hospitals in Gaza was that we were going to find major Hamas operations underneath these hospitals. But what the Israeli military was telling us and what it had been building up for weeks does not fit in with what quote-unquote evidence they have so far provided.
It is highly problematic that the Israeli military and Israeli leadership tend to create this alternative reality that if you know what's going on the ground, if you're talking with colleagues such as I am in Gaza, that you know that the messaging from the Israeli military and the Israeli leadership is false.
2 days before getting into Al-Shifa, the Israelis entered another hospital, Rantizi, where a man in uniform walked viewers through what they found. Daniel Hagari is a rear admiral, the chief spokesperson for the Israeli military.
Hamas used this hospital. Tonight we have entered into this building. I will show you the evidence.
He said that this document posted on the wall, written in Arabic, was a roster of Hamas fighters, proof of terrorists holed up at the hospital.
This is a Guardian list where every terrorist writes his name and every terrorist has his own shift, guarding the people that were here.
But it wasn't a roster with names on it. It was a calendar with days of the month. Still, the story was off and running.
The mere fact that this video was aired, was broadcast by these outlets, it shows that they accept it somehow as being truth. And it leaves the viewer with the responsibility of questioning the veracity of it. This is the responsibility of news media outlets, not to be parroting what spokespeople say, but to actually questioning it. Their job is to question power, not to give a platform to power to spew whatever lies it wants to.
We've seen a concerted campaign by the Israeli government and by the Israeli military targeting Gaza's hospitals.
The Shifa Hospital is the largest hospital in Gaza City, but it's also one of Hamas's headquarters.
And so we've seen these narratives that these hospitals are hotbeds of quote-unquote terrorist activity, and thus they are legitimate targets. And that sort of concerted media and propaganda campaign has led us to where we are now, where we see the near complete collapse of Gaza's healthcare system.
The Israeli military has claimed that there are Hamas tunnels under the hospitals. The problem with this is that it has never been independently verified. The director of Shifa Hospital said it's just lies.
The Israeli army spokesman is propagating false lies and fabricated reports.
Two Norwegian physicians, including Dr. Mads Gilbert, who've worked extensively in Al-Shifa, claim that there are no Hamas centers under the hospitals.
If it was a military command center, I would not work there.
And you would think, since hospitals are dedicated to serving patients, that if Hamas was building a vast network under the hospital, that the staff would object to this.
With disinformation, the whole point is to create confusion, to create a system and where you don't sympathize with Palestinians and that you don't want to see an end to this genocide.